In this tutorial, we are going to be focusing on cutting out hair, removing the background in just a super simple way. And I absolutely love this method because you are able to cut out basically the smallest little hairs and really make the image stand out and look awesome. So let's go ahead and get to it. All right, so we're going to start with this image here, and the main tool we're going to be using is right over here. It's called the background eraser tool. Now, one quick thing is if you're looking at this tool right here and you're like, I don't see that tool, or I don't, if I'm ever talking about a tool and you don't see it, very simple. Go up to Edit, and then go down to Toolbar, and over here you'll see on the left is a list of all of the tools that you can find here, and on the right you can see the tools that are not included in here. So if you find one, like for example, this tool we're using right now, or if we use like the sponge tool or whatever, you can just grab it and bring it over there and see that all of a sudden the crop tool is right within there. So that's just a quick side note. And then once you're done, just click done. But for now, if you already have it, great. Let's go to the background eraser tool. Now there's many ways of cutting out hair. This is one of the best that I've found because it's so dang accurate and I love it. So I picked a slightly complex cutout right here. It's not super complex because you can see, there's a lot of contrast here. But, when it gets down here, it's a little bit more complicated. But just as a side note, whenever you are shooting something like this, you always want to make sure that there's contrast in the background, that the background color is different from the hair color. Because if the background is the same color as the hair, it's going to be just nearly impossible to cut out. Okay, so before we get into actually cutting this hair out, let's talk about these settings up here. These are the sampling settings. So basically, what color it's sampling and how it's cutting things out. So the first one is continuous. This basically is saying that, let's actually turn tolerance up here. The continuous is basically just, it's choosing a color right here, but then as it gets to the next color, let's say it gets to this brown color right here, bam, it starts erasing the brown color. Then let's say I go down to this sort of like yellow color, bam, it starts erasing that. See that? The black, bam, back to the blues, okay? So it's continuously erasing colors around it. If you stay around the edges, it's okay, but it's still, it's not that bad. You just got to be careful to not get your little middle pointer thing to go bam over the next color. So I don't use that much. The next one is just the once, like it samples one color when you click once and hold. So for example, if I want this color over here, the blue, I'm going to click and hold and then just go around the image. See how it's erasing just the blue? Even if I go over the red here, it's not, or the orange hair, it's not erasing the orange hair. Even down here, see, it's not erasing this white. But if I let go and I click again, then it selects the white and it starts cutting that out. So hopefully that makes sense. And then over here, over to this white color, bam, same thing. If I go over here on this, there you go. So it just samples once if you hold it down, and then it works that way. This one over here is kind of like, I've never really needed to use this. It's background swatch. Basically, it means it's going to pick the color of the background swatch, the one in the back here, which is kind of random. So let's say I want to pick that color. Then I can lift my mouse as much as I want, and it's not going to paint in any other color, or it's not going to key out any other color except for that background blue. So anyway, the one we're going to use, those are the three like sampling ones. The one we mainly use is this one in the middle. Let me undo all these adjustments that I've done. Oops, right there. Okay, so I'm going to use the middle one. Next thing is this right here, discontiguous, contiguous, and find edge. So discontiguous basically, let me actually show you what contiguous does first. Basically, you see how there's this hair here that's sort of blocking this inner space? And then we have this outer blue. So the outer blue and then the inner blue. And this is sort of the border right here, this hair. So what contiguous does is if I'm painting right here, see how my brush is going over the inner blue, but it's not painting out the inner blue. Basically, the contiguous is just selecting the outer edge, and it's not going onto the interior. See, even over here, it's not going onto the interior blue, okay? Whereas discontiguous, which is the one we are going to be using, let me make my brush a little bit bigger here. You can see I picked this blue, and it's going to select every blue, the interior one, the exterior one, and that's the one that we want to do right there. And then find edge is kind of like contiguous, but it makes things a little bit, like, cuts the edge a little bit more. You can see here, as opposed to the other one, it's like cutting the edge, making it a little bit sharper. Anyway, I don't use that one. So we're going to use discontiguous. So right here, the middle one, which is once sampling, then discontiguous, and then tolerance. The way to understand tolerance is basically how many colors it can tolerate at one time. So if I go down here to tolerance at 1, it's barely selecting out the blues that I just chose. Then I have to unclick and click again, unclick, click again. See, so it's barely selecting any blues. If I go to like 100, what it's going to do is select the blues, but all different shades of blue, and it's even going to come over onto the white. See, so that's nice if it's at 100. But what happens is when you're over here on the hair, let's say let's try this. So we're at 100. See, it's painting out even the browns right there on the hair. So that's not what we want. So we want to, because it's sampling, or it's tolerating a lot of different colors. So we're probably going to be right down at 50. So see this? 50 is tolerating some good colors. Over here, it's a little bit too blue. So maybe let's try like 60. Let's go up to 75, see what that does. See, okay, at 75, it's actually taking out a lot of those colors, which is great. So now all you're going to do, I'm just holding the mouse down on my Wacom tablet, and I'm just painting around the hair, just like this. Okay, so let's go up here, same thing, sample this color, and basically just paint. Look how awesome this is, how it's painting out these little hairs. Now, to see this better, and actually, I probably should have, I didn't do this at first, but let's copy this up. You always want to keep an extra layer down below that isn't affected, just in case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a solid color right above this, like a black color, and we're actually going to cut this one out. Okay, so once again, same thing. Let's just go back. I'll do this very quickly. Now what's happening is it's actually showing the color that is behind, which is the black. And you can see how good the selection actually is when you do this. You can see there's some blues, but as I'm painting over it, over and over, it's kind of taking those out. Same thing down here. Now, if you see all this stuff right here, what you can do is you can either increase the tolerance, or you can just click back on that color right there and paint that out again. So see, it's actually getting a better selection like that. Okay, so same thing up here. Now, if you're wondering where are all those little strands going, you're not seeing them right now, but check this out. If I double click here and I change the color to white, look how cool that is. It's basically collecting all of those white little, or those little strands. It's absolutely amazing. So same thing, I'm just going around like this, like look at that selection right there. Look how amazing that is. All right, and down here, it's a little bit tougher because, and this is what I mentioned earlier, you have to be careful of the backgrounds being the same color as the hair. The background color is kind of similar as far as the browns go with the hair, and so it makes it a lot tougher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the tolerance. So I'm going to tolerate less colors here. You see how it's doing that? It's actually tolerating less colors. Sometimes, though, you're going to get some sharp edges, which I am not a fan of. But you can see here, it's actually not doing that bad of a job. It's a little bit hard down here. Same here. I'm just dabbing, just going back and forth, just dabbing on these colors. It's a little bit harder there. Bam, bam, bam. Okay. All right. So let's tolerate a little bit more colors here. Just painting that stuff out. Okay. So now we have, oops, that's crazy. All right, that's going to be a little bit tough. So now we have the edges. Awesome. A little bit of stuff over there. Let's get rid of that. Right, like that. Okay. So now what we want to do is, you're probably thinking, okay, that was completely destructive. Yes, it was, because it's not like we made a mask or anything. That's just how this tool works. But what you can do to make this non-destructive, which is nice, so you can actually copy this layer up right here, the original layer. So hold down Option or Alt, copy it above. And what we're going to do is go to the layer that you just cut out and hold down Command and click right on that layer. That's going to make the selection that you just did. And now make sure you're on this new layer. We're going to click the mask right there. And you can turn off the top layer. So basically what this did is just made a mask of what you've already done, which is great. So this is something I always like to do just to test the hair. I'll double click on this color and I will go down into the darks, into the reds. And you can see here, as I go down into the darks, this is going to be a problem, especially if I'm replacing the background image with a dark image. This is always a big problem when cutting out hair. If you replace it with a white image, great, it's going to look awesome. But there you go, it's not going to work. So let me show you how to fix this really quick. So what we're going to do is go above the mask and create a hue saturation layer. And I'm going to go, it's very simple, go right here. That's going to select a specific color, and you can select the blues. Or what you could even do is right here, once you select blues, you can click this little eyedropper to add, or you can just sample a color. Just click that one right there. You can sample this color. So that's going to pick a more accurate color to this blue because it was on this background. So just like that. And I'm just going to desaturate that. Look at that. Bam. See, so I'm going to desaturate that just to right about there. We still have this kind of haze right around here. So let me show you how to fix that. Now, there's a couple ways of fixing this. Now, really quickly, if you notice here, there aren't any blues on this image minus the fringes of the hair. But just to be safe, what I'll do is I will invert this selection right here, the mask. So invert that. So now when I turn it on and off, it's not doing anything. And then I will basically paint back in around the edges. So see, when I paint back around the edges of the hair, it's turning it, it's desaturating that blue. And I'm doing that just because I don't want to mess around. If there's blue right here, it's going to get rid of that, see? So, and I don't want that. I just want the edges of the hair, just like that. Okay. All right, so now let's fix the actual hazing of this image right here. Now, a couple ways to do this. One, you could actually refine this mask a little bit more, the mask with the hair. The way you do this is you click on the actual mask, you go to your brush, make sure you're painting out with the right colors, which is black in this case. See, if I'm just painting like that, it's just taking away everything. So what you want to do is go up here and go down to a overlay blending mode. And then we are going to go right over some of these and refine those. Look how cool that is. It's refining that edge. And now I'm just dabbing. I'm pulling up my mouse and then bringing it back down, dabbing. Sometimes though, what this does is it creates a really harsh edge, which I'm not a fan of. So I don't do it a ton. Like you can see, look at that edge. It's just like making it kind of harsh there. So you could actually reduce the opacity and just kind of barely dab around some of the edges, the places that need it, just like that. Places like that. Right around the edge, just like that. So it's going to make it a lot sharper, a lot cleaner of a mask. Just like that. And then the last thing that I would do over the top of this is I would create a curves adjustment layer. And this is just to darken the edges here. So curves adjustment layer, and we're going to bring down the darkness just like that until the edges are looking pretty nice and dark. We're going to call this our burn layer because we're basically burning or darkening the image. I'm going to invert this mask by hitting Command I. Now, invert is also up here. If you go image adjustments and invert. That's how you invert all the masks and everything. Okay, so now basically once again, this layer is not doing anything. So let's paint with white over the top here. And let's paint with, let's see. Oh, I'm on overlay. That's why it's not doing anything. Yeah, make sure you change it back from overlay to normal when you're doing stuff, or else it starts acting weird. Okay, so opacity about 20, 30, and I'm just going to paint right around here. And this is going to darken up the edges and just add some contrast. Okay, so it's going to get rid of that like haziness that you were seeing before. See that? How it's just adding some nice haze to the edge of the image, just like that. I'm just darkening up that area right there. Just darkening that up. It's looking great. Okay, so now the hair is looking so much better. And if you go back here to these colors, you can start seeing if it's on white, it's looking great. If you're going down to black, it's looking great as well. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now let's say we want to add, we still need to refine this a little bit. So let's actually erase everything around the hair because it's looking, you're probably waiting for me to do that. So a way to see your mask is you can hold down Option or Alt and actually click on the mask itself. Like look how awesome that mask is that we created. Basically go around and cut out any or take away any like hazy areas. Now here's the thing, I'm not going to focus on the cutting out the body because the hair is really the most complex thing. The body, cutting out the body is very simple. You can use the pen tool, or you could even let me show you to go off of this mask option here. Just hold down Option Alt, and it'll take you back. So down here, you know, this is kind of a little complex. Same with down here because her shirt color is similar to the background color. So what I'd do is I'd use the pen tool. So hit P on the keyboard, and I would start up here, and I would kind of like go right around this, just like that. So there's a lot of different tools that you can use for cutting out. Cutting out hair is one of the most difficult. Pen tool, if you're wondering how exactly I'm using the pen tool, is very simple. You just click and drag, then hold Option or Alt to bring your little slider or your little arrow in the next direction. Bam, 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 something like that. Very simple. I'm going to go around this selection just like that. Right click, make selection. And I'm going to feather at about 1. Right there. And then once you have that mask selected, you can paint that out. So there's one issue here. If you look up close, you're going to see like there's a lot of these jagged edges that we don't want, you know. And it's just not looking that super good. We have kind of like the main outline, and it's okay. But sometimes what happens is when you go from something like this, like the destructive way of doing it, to a mask, the mask doesn't fully capture everything 100% correctly. So what I usually do, this is something very simple. You can actually copy up your original layer, and you can make another sort of selection around this. It's a little bit more broad. So for this one, I'm going to use the tolerance of 50, and I'm basically just going to go around this image and just redo everything I previously did. I'm going to add the same hue and saturation and burn layer to the top, and then I'm going to bring this layer all the way down. Now this layer is not a mask. See, I have my mask layer right here, and then I have my original layer right underneath. You can see the difference here. If I turn the underlying layer off, like look it over here, look how smooth and nice this is looking. If I turn this original layer off, that's the original mask we did, and this is the good layer. So it's kind of a mix of like, you know, mix and matching with the the mask layer and then the actual destructive layer underneath. And so for this, then you'd have to just go through and refine a little bit more. So I would actually click on this layer, and you can go back to your background eraser tool right here and just make some very slight like adjustments. See, that's a little bit too much. Let's bring down the tolerance to maybe 30, make my brush a little bit smaller, and you're just kind of like painting around there, painting around the edges there. You know, you're still going to get a little bit of some jagged, slightly jagged edges, but we're going to erase all this stuff. Okay. So let's actually just erase this. Just like that. Let's go back. We're just refining this. Background eraser tool, you can see some like greens right over here, so I'm just slightly getting rid of those. And there you go. So you have now a mask that is looking a lot better. You know, once again, before and then after we added that destructive layer underneath. So this is sort of like a mix of destructive and non-destructive. This is going to get you a lot nicer of a selection. So I'm just selecting out some of these pieces right there. Okay, so now once you put in your background, so we have a really awesome selection. Let me show you here what this looks like. So really awesome selection around the hair, and it's looking good with all types of colors, with white, with black, reds. It's looking nice. Hey, okay, we're just going to bring in our background here. Now with this background, you're not going to always have like a pure white or a pure black background. In most cases, you're probably gonna have a lot of texture, so it's gonna hide a lot of the hair anyway. But you always want to have a really good cutout in the first place, you know. And then you basically just go back and refine certain things. Like I'm seeing up here, there's like little pieces I need to get rid of. You know, right here it needs to be a little bit better. Anyway, you get the point. And then you can mess around with your background and put things in however you'd like to make it look good. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, check out some of the other videos. Remember to subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a master at creating amazing images and how to make 6 figures as a photographer, you can join our online photography school at fulltimephotographer.com. Or to see a preview of what the course is like, you can sign up for my free 1-hour training where I cover my top 10 secrets to creating images that sell. I'll also show you my exact marketing plan that has brought me clients like Adobe, Acura, LG, Nickelodeon, and more. So go to fulltimephotographer.com to check it out, or just click the button on the screen.